Thank you. All right, so most of us in this room have been helping founders, and so this is the panel where we actually get them up here on the stage. And if it's a where are they now panel, it seems like the place to start is where have they been? And so I'm going to introduce them, and it's not the slide that I thought it was going to be. No?
Don't progress. There's secrets.
Oh, well. No, there's a better slide somewhere. No.
Should we all just do our John Austin impersonations anyway?
No, don't do that. All right. So we'll start here. I'll just let them talk. We've got three founders here, two of whom have won NCIDEA grants twice. Eric Boggs, who's right here, Ryan O'Donnell, and at the end is Lauren McCullough, who won an NCIDEA grant and also was a colleague of mine at NCIDEA for a while. So just to set some context here, Eric, why don't you talk about maybe both your companies, where it was, what you do, give us an idea of where you were when you applied for the grant and where you are today.
Hello. There we go. Hi, everybody. My name is Eric Boggs. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called RevBoss. We are a lead generation services company, tech-enabled service, whatever you want to call it, in Durham. I've been running this business for over a decade. We won an NCIDEA grant in 2014, 15-ish, around that time. The slides John was looking for, he asked for before and after pictures of our team. And I sent him a picture of my family around that time, and my wife was pregnant with my third. And the where are they now is my daughter is 9. And so it's been kind of fun to grow a business while growing a family all at the same time. And I've been building startups and working in this category in Durham for a long time. You can tell by my lack of hair and white facial hair that I've kind of been through it, but it's been great. Had a lot of success and a lot of fun.
And the team stuck together with you through that whole thing.
Yeah, I try to get my daughters to come to this. They would be very bored and unruly, but it's fine.
All right, Ryan, why don't you go ahead?
Hi, everyone. My name is Ryan O'Donnell, co-founder and CEO of a startup called Sunlight. It's the current company I'm working on. We're about 18 months old. Prior company was called Employ Us. We were same vintage here back in the day, getting our seed grants back in, 2014, 15, almost a decade ago. But when we sold that business back in 2021, it was around the time my wife and I were foster parents, and I got to live in these two completely different worlds of tech startup land and the wonderful world of social services. Everything I saw in the HR tech and software space was completely absent when I would walk into I'm assuming the mayor of Durham is not here anymore, but when I would walk into the Durham County Social Services office, I would see fax machines and snail mail, and started Sunlight to improve outcomes for kids and families in the foster care system, and that's what we've been working on now.
So since you got your first grant at the same time, Eric, why do you still have all of your hair and it is not gray?
No comment.
Ryan was 12 and a half when he first won the grant.
This is the picture that they were trying to show, actually.
Yes.
You can see the only reason this beard is here is to protect the baby face.
All right, Lauren, why don't you go ahead?
So Lauren McCullough, I guess a micro grant, what was it, 22, fall 22, and C grant 23. So we have, my company has a platform that focuses on the auto parts industry. And right now we're really focused on helping to make sales reps more efficient in the field by giving them, automating the process of preparing for meetings and also helping to capture those insights and share with executive teams.
So why don't you tell us what stage the company was at when you won the grant? Were you flying high? Were you struggling? Were you trying to raise money? Give us a picture of what your company was like when you won the grant.
Yeah, so when we won the micro grant, it was a spreadsheet. We had, not even kidding, right? Like we weren't even incorporated when we won the micro grant because we really did try to, I feel like especially because I had been on the other side, I was like, okay, I have to do the things that I preached for a really long time. And so we literally went out to, our thesis in this whole idea was So the name trommel comes from a piece of equipment in gold mining that separates the dirt from the little gold nuggets. And so we like to torture that metaphor a lot and find humor in it. And so our idea was, if you just tell people what they need to know, right? Like they just like that one most important thing, they can act on it then. And we were looking at the time at small businesses. And so when we won the micro grant, we had a few people tell us they would give us some money that I don't even think had been defined on paper yet, to help them find the most important thing that they should do every day, which was a harder problem to solve than I expected. But it did help us get some early revenue and early traction. We were really coming into the market when e-commerce in our industry, because I had a really strong belief that vertical tech was the next wave of software, especially because I saw the AI stuff coming down the pipeline. And so when we were coming into the seed grant, we had taken that momentum, and I think that really was the story we told. Is we took this $10,000, we did something with it, we got people to pay us money, and now we need more money to grow. Right, so we really tried to take that momentum, and then that ultimately got us into Techstars. Won't spoil later, like some hard lessons we learned along the way after the grant. But yeah, it was. I would say we were hitting that strong inflection point, but it really became possible in the seed grant because of what we did with the micro grant, I think.
So Ryan, you won grants 10 years apart. So how did that? Did you see any changes in terms of where the company had to be 10 years ago versus where you felt the company had to be with this one to actually win that grant?
Yeah, I think we were kind of fortunate for being at very similar stages in both companies when we applied for an NCIDEA grant. For both Employ Us and for Sunlight, we had like our first big customer, right, with Employ Us. We were in the Citrix Startup Accelerator, if anyone remember that. But Citrix was our first customer, and we were like, hey, we've got one and a couple startups using us. We'd love to, continue growing. And similar to Sunlight, we started it in the summer of 2024. Slightly different, but we had launched with our first customer, which was the state of Oklahoma. And I was like, I have one state, there's only 49 others, but I'd really like to see if this is something that could scale and be a repeatable model. So had that like early product adoption, had the first customer, and we're trying to figure out like how big could this be.
And how about you, Eric?
So I'm like trying to like mind warp myself back to that place.
With hair.
Yeah, I did have a nice head of hair at one point. Didn't have this beard though. This Pep Guardiola look is pretty new. So I think we were probably already doing like $50,000 or $60,000 a month in revenue when we won a grant. So we'd already had a business, and RevBoss was definitely not my first go round. I'd been through it with. I saw Joe Colopy here. I worked at Bronto with him way back in the day. I'm in the book. If you crack open the book, I'm in there. And then I worked at a company called Argyle Social, and that did really well, and then did really not well pretty abruptly and quickly. And so I kind of knew what I was doing, and kind of knew I was going to win a grant. Not to sound too obnoxious, but I will say this. The technology demo that we submitted was a command line prompt that did some like data enrichment. And I remember my demo video was, I'm going to type a command and the screen is going to animate, and you guys aren't none the wiser. I mean, it did do some stuff. Compare that to what it takes now. I mean, I'm building entire products in a week on Replit. Like SaaS in particular is moving like 100 times faster than it moved 10 years ago. And so it's been really crazy to have started a business at one point in a technology life cycle and to be running one now where, I mean, you can probably speak to it, like you dream it and you can build a pretty good version of it in a day. And yeah, it's just crazy.
Did you raise money, or have you bootstrapped it since the grant?
No, we raised a small institutional round, but we haven't raised any money since then.
So the grant's been $50K for 20 years, and there's been a lot of changes that have gone on. Back then you had to buy a bunch of computers that cost you 20 grand. And so I know, and I don't know if you guys are still having this debate, is that the right amount? You can now build software a lot cheaper. So was $50K, Lauren, the right amount for you at that time, or is that? No, she's gonna. Yeah, no, we should have been 100,000.
500 would have been a lot easier.
Yeah,
John.
no. Is that the right amount to help you get to the next step?
It's kind of interesting, right? Because like money makes you dumb too, right? So, and I think that I'd been through enough of the ringer enough with other startups that I like kind of saw some stuff I think other maybe first time founders wouldn't see. So I feel like I have sometimes part of the experience of a second time founder as a result of that. And so one of the things I think that would have been effective for me was we got really fortunate in getting into Techstars pretty shortly after the grant. And that 100K from Techstars was required for our survival. So if we would have not gotten that Techstars money, and I don't think we would have gotten into Techstars if it wasn't for the grant, right? So it created that inflection for us. It would have probably been detrimental for us and it wouldn't have been enough. But because it created that inflection, it was really supportive. Now, this is now like 2023, right? Which like was a little bit different pre-Replit times, or when it sucked, I guess. And now you like can use Lovable for free. So but it's just the economics of creating software is so different right now that I think that we're still trying to recalibrate around it. And I think to me, it's not about having that initial funds up front that is the problem. It's like, then what? Right? Because you need to move really, really quickly. And so to me, really the need isn't do we make the 50K more? It's what happens next. And how do we make sure that there is a next round of funding coming through?
So Ryan, you're the most recent of the 3 grant winners. Is that 50K going to carry you to the end? Are you looking to raise money? Have you raised money? What's your current story?
Current story is we did raise a little bit more money. And I think one of the interesting sides of it, both this time and last time, was we saw NCID as like the first outside check that wasn't like money that the founders were putting in. And it helped to prove a little bit of validation. It helped us like take the time to think about the model in a really like deep way. But more importantly, it gave us our first like, I'm going to take X, I'm going to go to Y, and you're going to give me 6 months to do it. And if it works, great. We'll get more money and we'll set a new goal and take that on. So our pitch during our NCIDEA grant was, I have one state, I want to get a second state, I want to go from 150K in ARR to 500K in ARR. So we did that, and we raised a little bit more money, and then we just kind of keep ratcheting it up from there.
So Lauren, you wanted to defer some of the some of the comments about how things went after Techstars. You want to talk about those now?
Yeah. So, I, in hindsight, explained the lesson this way, right? So I thought, I've taught this, right? So go find the biggest, most painful problem. What I didn't account for is the fact that when a problem is so bad that your customers can't stay in business no matter what you do for them, it doesn't really matter, right? So we had this like very interesting lesson where we like had brought on all these customers and, we're like, oh, we're going to like reveal how your business is actually doing. And one of them called me and said, can you go ahead and bill me for the next month before I file Chapter 11 tomorrow? And I was like, oh God, okay. So we had like a series of like basically showing our customers how bad things were because we found the biggest problem, that they had to completely pivot their business, which meant we had to pivot our business, and which taught me that I never want to sell into SMBs again. So that was like a really interesting lesson that I think that the Techstars really forced us to face that truth, because some of those customers continued to trickle in. And then they continued to really struggle with the economics of their own business. And so it really taught us in that moment, we had to go enterprise, which means we had to fundamentally kind of pivot how we were positioning our company.
Okay. Eric, it's been 10 years. What's going on? What have you learned in those 10 years? Well, let me rephrase that. What are the 2 things you have learned in those 10 years that you would tell the 14-year-old Eric that had the lawnmower business?
Oh, yeah. I think that one of the things that NCIDEA did for me was confidence. Like, I would imagine Lauren and Ryan would probably agree, and anyone that's ever started anything, like raging imposter syndrome, no matter what. And getting a check from NCIDEA was incredibly validating for me, frankly, both times. And so I think what I would say to an earlier version of myself is like find that validation in yourself and in your market, and don't let that always be a function of an externality. You guys should keep giving grants, by the way. It really does make a big difference to people. But I think that is one of the things I would say to the lawn care version of Eric. It's a shame John can't show his slides because I dug around to find that picture. I probably spent 20 minutes looking for that picture. And I guess the other the confidence thing would be one, and I think number two is you have to have this like weird balance of extreme conviction in what you believe and what you're trying to do, and then a willingness to believe something very different really fast. And we pivoted our business massively in the past, 12, 14 months. And yeah, it was really hard. It's like going very hard one direction and then being like, yeah, this isn't going to work. Cut team, refactor everything, and now we're going to go really fast this way. And it was really hard, but it works. Like it's working. It's doing like we had our best month in a long time in October, and it's really hard to let go of something that you believe really deeply and find new conviction really quickly. So there you go. Hope that's not too.
We like to say strong convictions loosely held.
Yeah, there you go. I should have just said that. Lauren, you should ask Lauren that question.
Okay. So is that a technology shift or a market shift? What is it that had caused you to such a radical
all of it.
pivot?
I mean, AI like completely disrupted our business, and to like your comment about your clients, it murdered our clients. Like our clients were marketing services companies that have a lot of our clients evaporated, right? And it's like when you have an LLM that can do all of the work that your clients do, your clients struggle, and you can do the math on that. And so I think for us, it was like, well, we see this same problem. We don't need to be totally bound to this one solution to that problem, and we need to be more open to other ways at addressing the problem for our clients. And that's ultimately what we've done.
So most of the folks in this room are folks that help founders. So Ryan, what should these founders that they're helping, many of whom are probably applying for a grant, what advice would you give them that they should pass on to these founders about writing that grant application? Since you've done 1 and 2, you must be really good at it.
Have someone else proofread it a few times. That's always helpful. I think ultimately you want to distill it down, and like you need to assume that someone who has no context in your space, doesn't know all the acronyms, can read it and A, understand it, and B, have confidence that you can actually make that happen, right? I've read a lot of grant applications for giving feedback, and it's sometimes really hard. You're like I'm reading 4 or 5 pages before I know like what do you do? Does it work? Can you sell something? Can you build something? So I just think like being able to distill it down and communicate clearly, I'm doing X, here's why, our impact for our customers looks like this, they pay us, like laying it out as simple a story as possible is so important. And I think a lot of founders, they want to cram everything in and use every single character, and that's important, but like if you can't tell a simple story, the reviewer's eyes are going to glaze over and just go to the next one.
Lauren, you got any suggestions there?
Yes. I think that one thing, so I've talk a lot when I give kind of advice, or they ask me to kind of talk about that trajectory thing, which is actually good practice for if you are going to be a venture-backed company, right? It's not necessarily the traction of like a point on a graph. It's like what type of angle are you creating? And so that's one I will just like continue to iterate on, because you have to tell the story. It's basically an exercise in storytelling. I believe that now more than ever, though, and I don't know if this is advice I've given, is that there is a need to articulate a strong case for founder market fit. Particularly because of what Eric said, right? Like I can spin up a functional app in like 4 hours. It really makes software feel commoditized until you have a depth of understanding about your customers that's so intimate that the knowledge in which you understand about their problems and their day-to-day workflows is your competitive advantage more than any line of code ever will be. And so like if I was to review an application, like I would look at people that not only understand the industry because they've been in it, but like show that like obsession for it. Because the reality is whatever you end up building in the seed application, I would say probably 95% of the time is in the company that you scale. And so the fact that you know you're almost going to have to pivot to some degree at some point in time, what doesn't change is your conviction for a problem set. And what doesn't change is your understanding of mind share for your customer base. Like that's one of the reasons I think that we were able to so seamlessly kind of shift directions is because we became like the AI people in the automotive aftermarket industry, which if you would have told 14-year-old Lauren was an option, I would have been very confused. But the thing is it was so seamless because there's people that know more about AI than me. There's people that know more about the aftermarket than me. I would argue there's very few people in the world that know more about those intersection of those two things. And so it's allowed us to really dominate that mind share and get intimate knowledge about our industry that they're not willing to share other places. And as you go into a grant or sales or anything, like anything you're doing, I can't emphasize how strongly I feel that is like an absolute requirement that probably wasn't quite as significant 3 years ago. But it's really changing.
Is there anything from 10 years ago that would still be relevant in a grant application?
No. I mean, cash, clients. I mean, Lauren's right. Like, I reviewed grants. I'm pretty sure I might have reviewed grants with you.
Thank you.
I didn't review. I think I got an email to come review some grants, and I was like, God, these are awful. And because they didn't address some of these things that they're talking about, like it's a pretty simple. It's like I know a lot about this. I care a lot about it. Here's the evidence to those claims. Show me the money.
Yeah, to Ryan's point, you don't want to dumb down your story because these are really smart people reading your grant, but they don't know about your business, they don't know about your ecosystem, and so you're just trying to articulate it clearly. And it's kind of like the when you apply for a job, the purpose of the resume is not to get a job. Purpose of the resume is to get from the stack of 100 to the 10 that get called up, and then to get to the stack of 3 that get an interview. And it's the same process with this NCID grant. You're just trying to get somebody really excited about what you're doing, and they can't get excited if all you're telling them is, words they don't understand and cryptocurrency, blah, 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 AI, blah, blah, blah.
Well, and I think too, right? I'm guessing the bar has gone up in the last 12 to 24 months because honestly, you have no excuse for typos now. Like you all have LLMs. Put it in Claude, put it in ChatGPT, spell check that shit. I'm sorry. Like, it's just like, but also it's not just that. And I don't believe that I don't think you're going to write a very good application just writing it with AI, but you do have the ability to use these tools now to give you critical feedback and to dumb it down and to put it in a position and to create a better story arc. So at this point, I'm like, you have no excuse. Right.
I'll take it a step further. You have zero. If you're in SaaS, you have zero excuse to not have a functioning application that is generating revenue with users. Like I want a grant with a video of a command line prompt, like pinging some APIs, and it worked, and we used that stupid little applet for forever. But now, for the amount of time it took to build that, like, yes, the bar is, do you have revenue from customers? Yeah. And it certainly wasn't like that, back in the day, as they say.
Well, if you think about like how much time you're going to spend writing the application, like if you spent an equal amount of time talking to customers, of selling, or of just playing around with Lovable, you'll probably be able to be a lot further along than if you agonize and spend an extra like 30 hours rewriting the application over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
So we're probably got time for one more. Again, this is a set of folks that help entrepreneurs. What's one thing that you are looking for from the support organizations, the people in the community, the ecosystem that could most benefit you as a founder?
I have been waiting for this question. I have an answer. So, number one, cash. Cash, for real. Support, all that really matters. Cash buys time, and that's what people need. Like one thing that NCIDEA should consider is, like, I think part of the rules was like you can't pay your own salary out of this grant, which, the first grant I paid it to a guy named Mike Novi who built our prototype. The next grant I paid it to a guy named Mike Novi who built both of the times he came to work for me full time. I don't need to pay a contract dev or organization $30,000-$40,000 to do that anymore. So I think
That's changed.
that is important. Good. The other thing, I saw that Elaine Marshall was going to be here. I don't know how many other government politico types are in here. Health insurance, cash in the form of health insurance. I'm not running for office, but the single greatest job creating legislation that can exist in the United States of America is healthcare. The reason people don't start jobs is their kids need healthcare, their wife needs healthcare, their spouse needs healthcare. You fix health insurance, you get more startups.
I'll vote for him. Ryan?
I'm just saying, Andrew Yang said more people need to run. So
There's too much bad stuff I've done on the internet for me to ever hold all this.
I mean, an NCIDEA grant that's $100,000 would go a very long way, right? So, I mean, let's get after that. I think the other thing is recognizing that a lot of the founders might not make it, and that's okay. I think there's a tendency to like put on a pedestal the folks who make it. I think about some of the entrepreneurs that like got it our cycle or that I know have gotten it. Some of them have worked out incredibly well. Some of them were nice base hits. I know some founders who they went on and joined a company that blitzscaled and then hired 3 or 4 ex-founders who like their startups didn't make it. And I think it's important to think about what we're building as the full ecosystem, not just 1 or 2 really great success stories. I mean, let's have those, let's fund them, but like being able to support the ones who don't make it by helping them either get a job at another startup or make them more successful on the second or third one is so impactful, right? My first startup was not great. My second one, a little bit better. This is the third one. I think it's going to go on pretty good, you know? But, you know, the only reason I was able to do that was because I had a lot of people supporting me along the way. So just know that it's a very long haul for many of those founders, and encourage them to keep it going. I think it's so helpful.
Lauren?
So yes, everything that Eric said, especially, agree definitely with like, you need time, right? That's been like a big challenge for my company is because fundraising has not been easy. Coming of in 2023, right after capital was like basically free to non-existent, was a really hard time to try to fund our company. And I'm fortunate that we were able to pivot into kind of a tech-enabled service thing to do some exploration and extend our runway. But it also caused us to have to do some non-scalable things that is okay, but did slow us down. Like we've had to make a lot of compromises to keep the lights on. And yeah, the healthcare thing is a huge problem. I haven't had health insurance in like 2.5 years, and thank God I haven't gotten bit by a snake again. Sorry to NCID's premiums if they're still high after that.
That might be the most North Carolina startup thing ever.
Yeah, so, but yeah, seriously, like I think that we also have to be willing to take a risk in our own community. I haven't exactly been shy about my opinions in the investment ecosystem in this town, but at the risk of sticking my foot in my mouth, one of the things that I noticed a lot when I was in Austin is how willing people were to stick their neck out for people that didn't even live there. And I felt like I couldn't even get that in my own community sometimes. I feel like the expectations of local founders can sometimes be higher than founders outside of the ecosystem, which can be kind of frustrating. And so it's like we have to start to be willing to take a bet on ourselves. And if we want to see unicorns in this town, then we need to take a risk like we have unicorns in this town. And it's just getting the whole bar to be elevated for everyone. And so it's not one person can fix this problem. We all have to start to be willing to take the risk on our own local founders, our own local talent. And I know that there's people in this room that connect me with my ideal customer, so do it. Because in Austin, they were doing it for me, and I didn't even live there. And it's like, I got an introduction to CEO of Big Commerce for being there in a week. But that stuff isn't happening here. It's like we all want to help, but we're not willing to put our neck out there. And so we've got to start taking risk if we want to see this community get elevated.
All right. We don't have time for questions, but these folks will be around the rest of the day. So let's give them a round of applause. And we're going to be on to the next generation of grant winners here pretty soon.